Welcome back to week 3 of the SCC qualifiers. It's crunch time for all of these teams, and we're showing you the quarterfinals here today. Belugi and the Woogies punch their ticket to the group stage with a win in quarterfinal number 1, and we move on to quarterfinal number 2. My name is Dolson. Agro's still with me, this time in the Breakdown Lounge.
The Bologna set.
The Bologna Breakdown Lounge.
Okay.
And on Paladin's days, it's the Bomb King Breakdown Lounge.
What about the consortium of knowledge? How do you feel about that?
That
The
word
Bologna-
is too big. No, if I
Bologna
don't even
consortium
understand
of
the word consortium, no way I can sit in the consortium of knowledge, right?
So, Dave, you're going to deprive our very intelligent viewers of something because you don't understand it? Don't you feel like that's a little inappropriate?
Welcome back to the Consortium of Knowledge. My name is Dolson. Agro joins me for set number 2 between Ohey and the Slaughter Squad. And these are still some teams that have some big names on either roster. Looking over at Ohey first, honestly, Haddix kind of is that one of those names that jumps out to me right away in that solo lane. Filled in for Sanguine through their World Championship run. A big name, carries a lot of weight, and somebody you expect to step up here.
Absolutely. I mean, Haddix is a great solo lane player. He proved that he can play very well up against SPL level competition. Yeah. I imagine he's going to do very well in this sort of bracket, the open bracket sort of nature. Haddix is a dude that's going to play a little bit of off stuff every once in a while. I mean, if you've been in those high-level rank games, you've probably seen things like the solo lane Susano really dominate. Sure. But he proved as well that he could have a more traditional god pool. He could play the Osiris, the Yorm, the things that you typically expect a solo laner to be playing.
Well, sBennyQ may be the big name over there for Slaughter Squad. And as we jump into picks and bans, I know sBennyQ is kind of known for playing some out there stuff here and there, so maybe nothing off the table as we jump in.
No, I think that's going to be a potential tension point is which team is going to pick more traditionally and then which team can actually execute if they do pick something that's a little bit off the wall, because certainly both teams have the potential to do just that.
And what we haven't seen in a little while is Morgan sometimes, to be fair, she's been banned out a good bit, but it's been more traditional hunters kind of in that long lane. I think week 1 we maybe saw some swapping with a mage in the long lane and a hunter kind of in that mid lane, but it's been a lot of just standard stick your hunters in that long lane recently.
Yeah, it's because there's this one item and it's called Rage. It's 2,300 gold, right? And you get like almost 50% crit chance from it. So you're going to see hunters just about everywhere because Rage is worth putting just about everywhere in your team. Hunters get the most farm. They get to 2,300 gold the fastest. They get Rage really, really early.
Aptly named Rage, right? Because guaranteed 5 people on the other team plus aggro are unhappy about it. Xing
That's right.
continues his dominance as top pick or potentially ban potential here. The last week in that backdoor attempt, there was a huge 3-man Xing ultimate. And is that sort of his deal, that big utility is enough to make him high priority?
It's that he has utility, and then when you think, okay, the Xing doing a little bit too much, we need to kill him, that's not a viable option because he just is so tanky. He gets around very well with that 3. His HP 5 makes him deceptively hard to kill, and then he's got a knock-up root. His CCs don't interact with each other in a bad way. They apply stacks of DR, but they don't get DR'd because roots and knockups are calculated differently. He's just really good. He does just about everything well.
Well, Ohey had some heavy mid lane priority in their bans through the first 3. Kukulkan and Merlin both taken off the board. That, of course, opens up the Odin and the Isis as well. I mean, it kind of has been Kukulkan, Merlin, and if one of the 2 is banned out, maybe we move on to a 3rd, but likely an Isis here.
I mean, it's normally when you pick the Odin, you want circle alt to put on top of the circle that Odin drops.
Right.
Isis has to be a little bit closer than a lot of mages would like to be, but it has fantastic turnaround potential. And don't forget that Isis was a premier top pick, top ban since mid-season last year. She still brings all those things. Great early wave clear, the ability to fight well early around mid camps, and that incredible control come mid to late game and even in the early game. I do think that having less contestable mid harpies on the left-hand side did hurt her a little bit because she loved to fight around those mid harpies. Same can be said for a character like Zeus, who fights really well in those narrow corridors. You kind of lost an area where you can fight well, but she still brings a lot of the things that you'd want out of a mid laner.
Hera and Baron Samdi both taken off the board, as well as the Morgan and Chernobog, so still needing a hunter for that role. Is Slaughter Squad here, so maybe that's the target of some of the ban there from Ohey.
I think that we're just going to wait and see what they might pull out as far as what Ohey's composition is going to look like. If they would have gone with something a little bit CC heavy, maybe they go with something like a Chiron to try and cleanse. They go with someone who relies on mobility a lot, aka Horus. We go straight to the Cupid with that Fields of Love. Cupid always looks like such a good pick on paper. Fields of Love is such a potent ultimate in concept, but it's really, really hard to execute a lot of the time, but I love it in conjunction with this Athena. This is a great front line. I'm just a little bit worried about the damage output from Slaughter Squad, but their CC is phenomenal. They've got good follow-up off of that CC, but I'm a little worried that they might just get run over because they won't have enough outright damage spread out outside of that crowd control.
Well, the 10th and final pick here is a Scylla, and I know you are the biggest Scylla fan in Smite. You think she's a top-tier mid laner.
Okay, she's really fun, and I like playing her, but I just don't think she's that good. I don't think
she's
this
very
item is
one-dimensional. She's
one-dimensional, and I think that the meta right now among mages is cooldown related because Chronos Pendant got a huge buff that you build into Restored Artifact, you get there easily. Scylla does not do well with CDR in comparison to a lot of other mages. I want to kill you with my first rotation. I don't care about 2 and 3.
Well, this should be a good one. Group stages still on the table for both of these teams. John Finch, take us in.
More than happy to, Dave. Let's go ahead and move into the match between ohey and Slaughter Squad. It's Finch and Mifflin. There's already action happening in the very first minute. They've got one member locked down already. And really nowhere for this Athena to go. Oceans finds first blood in the support role. I traditionally think of Oceans as like a hunter mid player or something like that, but he's playing the support Horus for him.
Yeah, I've known Oceans for a long time, back when he used to go by Turnip, and I've never seen him play support. That's not true. He's played a couple in my casuals, not well, but I imagine he's been practicing for this roster. Finding the first one on your support, not ideal, especially when your whole team is there. Someone else could have taken it. However, it's going to go to him. It's going to go to ohey. They can't complain about it too much.
Not at all. But just like they were saying on the desk, these are two strong teams, I would say. Yunglad and sBennyQ, certainly guys who have been around this scene here for a while. Sheyka as well. And then on the side of ohey, this whole roster sort of feels like SML All-Stars, right? Haddix, they talked about his great run he had with Xing last year. Glaivus has been around this SML scene forever, so has Amuel. Oceans has been the SPL, has been in SML too, so I expect this to be competitive, much more so than game number 1 that we saw over in about 21.5 minutes and was never really in much doubt.
No, there was never a moment that I thought that Mallah's squad wasn't going to win here, but this one can go either way. For any of the fans at home that are a little bit more OG, our boy Yunglad is actually iFates, and BIossum is Awesome Possum. If you guys are fans of them, you should know those names. But we're seeing a little bit of action in the duo lane. That's exactly what you would expect to see from the side of ohey as well, abusing Cupid's kind of low pressure in the early.
He is a bit low pressure, and I was going to ask you about these drafts. It really felt like they kind of doubled down on the circles with this one, right? With the Cupid ultimate, with Ice's ultimate, with this Odin obviously around his ultimate too. Do you think it's a little bit too much of that? Are they too much reliant around this Odin from Yunglad, or do you like the composition?
I like the comp outside of Cupid. Jing doesn't really synergize very well with Odin. It is a circle ultimate, but his is going to be displacement CC. But that's not why you pick Jing. You pick him for the pressure in lane, as well as the ability to displace. Cupid, on the other hand, he can't really mesh very well off of Jing, assuming they pick up any sort of CC immunity or Heavenly at any point. Cupid's ultimate is going to be completely mitigated, and he doesn't really have that nuts of follow-up from Jing. I mean, you can get that Heart Bomb. It's decent damage and a stun. Sometimes just as slow if he doesn't have the full stacks, but Cupid in of himself is a very weak hunter right now when there's so many strong hunters on the board. I know you said it in Picks and Bans. Heimdall was available for the entirety of the time there.
Never got picked up, especially if you're going to end up picking someone who's ability-based anyway. Then a bit odd that you would choose the Cupid over him. But Cupid, I suppose, maybe is a little bit safer. I mean, I don't know. You're not going to catch me trying to sell Cupid over Heimdall right now, but whenever Transcendence is good, usually Cupid's good too. So maybe that's sort of the idea, is that he can build with all that power and CDR quite well. And as long as you're landing your Heart Bombs at ability 1, then Cupid's certainly fine at this point and does still do relevant damage as a hunter too.
I think it's relevant to point out Sheyka versus Amuel in the mid lane. There's going to be so much more pressure coming out of this Isis. But the purple buff invade going on now with a blink in from Oceans.
Yeah, Oceans wants to get this fight started off right away, trying to prevent this purple buff invade. Slaughter Squad were insistent on trying to strip this one away, and it looks like they were successful. A bit of a protracted fight happening over here on the purple buff, but nothing too much comes of it. So you were talking about Sheyka and Amuel.
Yeah, Sheyka and Amuel, that lineup right there, that just matchup, it's going to be favored in Isis in the 1v1, but even outside of the 1v1, if there's no kills that happen in that lane, Isis is going to be able to put out so much more pressure in the middle lane. And it's not even that she has slightly more, because a little bit more pressure doesn't really matter, but she should be clearing waves with one ability very easily from level 3 onwards, whereas Scylla's going to be struggling until about level 7 to clear these waves.
Yeah.
So the rotation path for Sheyka is going to be so much more available. She can move in towards the soul lane. I doubt she will, going towards like a Cullen. Not always the smartest move, but she can go over and try and poke out the Jing way or even take the kill onto Oceans. You know, Horus is not as safe a support as Jing Shen, so it is actually a very good gank path. That pressure is something that they're going to have to contend with, Slaughter Squad, that is.
You're right. I mean, Scylla, she's just not all that good, it feels like, right around now. I find myself kind of agreeing with Aggro on that assertion, but I think there are some spots where she still feels really good. If your team has a lot of setup, then a few things are better than I'm a Monster. It really just can shut down that one target if you're able to line that ability up consistently. But this is where the Isis should come out ahead in every one of these matchups. Spirit Ball into the stun here from the Odin. That forces out the purification beads from Amuel very early on. Oceans goes back in, trying to get the response in kind from Sheyka, but very patient. He holds on to his beads.
That was really good return damage. Now they can't really look to pressure him out until the next back, but those beads dropping on Scylla is going to be huge. The second that they can force out the dash, she won't have the beads available. Cage is going to come down. That should be a free kill.
And we haven't really had a chance to talk much about this either, but Athena solo for DanteLeFargo here up against Haddix on this Chulainn. I mean, Chulainn is already going to bully just about anyone in lane, especially someone like an Athena who can be a bit slow to get started. Her damage can certainly be relevant if he goes into the hybrid build we sometimes see from Athena jungle. And rotations from the solo lane are going to be a lot easier for her with Defender of Olympus than other solo laners. How do you feel about Athena in the solo?
Athena solo, especially in Season 7, now that Void Stone takes away percentage pen on the aura, and that's a core item on a Bruiser Athena, it's going to allow your mid laner to overcap penetration, but purely upon the solo lane matchup, there's not many, if any, matchups that Athena will win. Maybe she could take out a Guan Yu, but Haddix on this Chulainn is going to be feeling pretty nice and pretty the entire time.
Haddix, right?
Haddix, that's right. But the Athena, Defender of Olympus, is going to be able to rotate out of the lane so very easily that it's really not even her concern to win that lane so much as that she's trying to facilitate leads elsewhere. It's whether or not her team can really utilize that ultimate. It's not really on her.
Right. I mean, really, like you said, all DanteLeFargo is trying to do is stay about as close as he can in lane, maybe not give up every single totem of coup, those types of things, and then make sure that he is relevant when he makes those rotations later on, because again, they're going to have plenty of setup. Oceans goes to the skies, ultimate goes right back down in place. They drop the cage and the Fields of Love, and Sheyka comes out on top, finds a first kill for Slaughter Squad, and shuts down Oceans.
I mean, it wasn't pretty. He had to use his ultimate there to avoid the Jing Shen ult, and he didn't get very far, but that's the nature of Horus ult. It takes so far to travel. That's really the best he could have hoped for, and he forced out Glaivus' ult, the Hun bots, and he forced out I'm a Monster. You know, he didn't live, he didn't get any return kills, but that's the most you could really hope for in that situation.
It's just not a great defensive tool, is it, to the skies? I mean, it's much more of a sort of proactive tool that you can use to make aggressive plays, or maybe you can set up a defensive escape option if you can use it ahead of time and your team is going to run to it right when you're about to teleport away or something like that. But in those situations, it's very hard to quickly get away with that ultimate. And that's probably fair. Horus has a ton of escape tools already. Probably doesn't need that ultimate to be much faster, so in that situation, Oceans just likely wasn't going to get out of there.
XP is about even across the board right now. No level disparities in any lane, and that's huge ups for Athena. That's the only one we should be really excited about. If I had to imagine how this game goes, Isis should be pulling ahead momentarily as she's been clearing up all these mid camps on her own. But Athena being able to maintain even with Haddix, as you said, that's pretty good.
That is pretty good so far. Glaivus considering a gank onto this Athena. Defender of Olympus forced out quickly. He'll get what free damage he can off. Thought he might consider following, but instead happy to just force that ultimate out defensively here in right. You know, I'm a bit surprised that we see Oceans going into this Spellbound Kasari, this magic defense early. Gauntlet of Thebes considered so strong right now that you almost always pick that up right after your boots, but looks like he's a bit more worried about some of this incoming magic damage, and maybe he's right. Do you like that pickup here?
That pickup tells me that he's going to be looking to make his plays in the middle lane. He's going to be neglecting the long lane, if you would. So he's really looking to contend with Isis and Jing Shen's damage. It's a decent pickup, but Gauntlet of Thebes has such a good power spike, and it's so core to the build that you want to pick it up as early as possible to start stacking it up.
Yeah.
I imagine he might not even elect to go at this game.
Yeah, we'll kind of keep our eyes on where it is that he chooses to go in that third slot, since it is looking very likely he's going to commit to some magic defense now. I mean, especially if he's predicting there's going to be some early ganks from DanteLeFargo as well, and likely he'll be the subject of that early aggression. The target that he's on will likely get the Defender of Olympus, and that damage will be hard for him to get away from. I think I kind of like the idea. It's just that, like you said, You really want Gauntlet of Thieves, but DanteLeFargo not going to get to make any ganks anytime soon. Glaivus shuts him down, and sBennyQ has to run for the hills over and left.
ohey's looking like they're in the driver's seat the majority of this game. I mean, it's been relatively slow. Slower than anything we've seen these last couple weeks, to be sure. 9 minutes, only 3 kills. This is some disciplined play from both teams, but, you know, 2,000 gold lead at this point with only a 1-kill deficit. ohey's playing the map so much better.
Bonjo considering a gank here on left. I don't know if BIossum has sniffed it out yet. Now the jig is up. Jingwei fairly safe, even if the knockup had come through. Obviously, Jingwei can get right on out of there. So not much more to come from that. But sort of as you were talking about just a moment ago, right? What is this slower pace a result of? And I gotta think it's because we don't normally get to watch these quarterfinal matchups, right? This is still a best of 1, and this is to determine who's gonna make it through to the group stage. This is probably the most tense matchup in the entire bracket for these players. It's also week 3. There is not another chance. If you don't make it through here, then that is your last chance to make it into the SCC gone. So I expect this to be a bit more of a calculated matchup between these two.
Being in this position in the past myself, it weighs so heavily on your mind knowing that one game, a best of 1, really can set your year from, you know, I'm going to be in the league or I'm not. I have 0 chance. This is really going to, the next 6 months of these players' lives are really determined by this match.
You're right, and I think both these teams have a claim to that spot too. It's a bit of an unfortunate matchup, I might say, but I think we'd be the SCC would be well represented by either of these teams, really. So it just kind of determines on which one of these teams comes out a bit more prepared. And these are not probably the compositions that you were expected to see. I mean, we don't see that much Isis, we don't see that much Cupid, you don't see that much Athena solo and Scylla nowadays. So who can kind of adjust to that as the Fields of Love gets traded out from sBennyQ with the airstrike from BIossum. Has to go up a little bit of pressure as both the supports are hanging by nearby and the Batz is rotating in. I wonder who the ping was from. Was that Slaughter Squad recognizing the potential gank? It looks like it was. They gave up on the pressure and left.
ohey's next play going forward now is to move in towards the gold free, but that's so scary to do against an Isis Odin. Their confirm is so high, but with this lead, that's really the only way they can really look to push it further.
Split of Valor and cooldown boot to DanteLeFargo. My man is trying to ult as often as possible, it feels like to me, right? He wants as much CDR as he can get, and he wants to be involved. Young lad, though, in a whole heap of trouble. They don't let him get the leap off. Glaivus gets 1 more kill and shuts the Odin down. Man, there's so much talk about how strong Odin is nowadays, but I don't know, man. I feel like Young Lad's been relatively quiet. He got those beads out from Amuel earlier on in the game, and that feels like kind of the only active play we've seen.
Younglad taking Odin into the jungle role is also worth noting. Take a look at his build as well, the shifters. Yeah. That's super unique. You wouldn't expect it. You would want some extra CDR, kind of like you pointed out with DanteLeFargo, then ult bot if you would. That's kind of Odin's job at this point as ohey looks to pull the Pyromancer.
They've got it down quite low. DanteLeFargo, the only one that can test but can't do much by himself. Does force them to use Fear No Evil to confirm the objective, but now they might get the kill on the Dante to go along with it, but he manages to get that dash off. That's hard to believe with the ultimate coming out from that Chulainn. Can't find the route from there either, but Ocean's able to get right back out of there thanks to the dash. Now it's ohey that are on the run.
Our boy Haddix single-handedly dropped that kill as he shoulder bashes our boy out of the crush. If I'm Amuel, I'm like, what's up, bro? What is that? Why'd you do it, you know?
You don't want me getting kills, or what's happening, bud?
If you're going to at least, you know, push him out, get the kill yourself, but Haddix can't do that, and he loses the tower in response.
He does. He manages to get the teleport off. That's actually a big deal. Yeah, it gets him back in this fight much, much sooner, even though he does still lose the tower anyway. Could potentially impact this fight as Amuel, the mid laner, has rotated all the way over to right to be a part of this, but there won't be much more happening here. So let's check back in with these builds a little bit more. Oceans did end up going with the Oni Hunter's Garb, a bit surprising, I'd say, but this is a ton of mitigation that he's going to be able to get. So he's not going to take nearly as much damage as he would, even with the Gauntlet of Thieves, going with this build.
It's also an interesting pickup if you look at the side of Slaughter Squad. They do have some tick damage in the Isis, so that's 3% off of each gust of Wing Gust. Maybe that's why he elected for it. It is a very good pickup into gods like Isis.
I think so too. So it certainly makes some sense where he's electing to go. Amuel building one of the mana builds that we often see the likes of Kukul Khan going, but I think can work on Scylla just as well. This Book of Thoth into Polynomicon so often, even just sick him into a poly auto can do quite a lot of work. So I think this build's going to work for Amuel quite well as well here too. Unbat's fairly standard with Crusher and Transcendence. Nothing really to write home about there. But this Doom Orb start for Isis is a bit odd. I mean, I feel like so often you want Chronos Pennant in that early slot. Do you like picking this Doom Orb here early?
Do more pickup means that you're looking to play aggressive, right? That's what Isis is going to do, but let's hold that thought as this fight begins.
Yeah, yunglad has already dropped down the cage. They're really just trying to get Haddix out of there, finds the knock-up, and DanteLeFargo takes quite a bit of damage. I'm a monster! Lands perfectly, thanks to the Fear No Evil coming through as well. Almost pushed it out. But underneath the tower, Sheyka in some trouble. There's a full-on dive from Oceans. He doesn't quite have the damage. Yunglad makes down as BIossum gets one more kill. Airstrike, this is more to close the gap than anything, but a blink from Yunglad allows for the escape. Has to use the beads, though. Does BIossum to get away from the Whirlwind of Rage and Steel.
Ohey's taking these fights in the enemy jungle every time, and they're just willing to do it happily. SCC finds a nice ultimate. Haddix might fall. No, he's fine.
Gets out of there just barely. I think it was Glaivus that had to use Purification Beads. He did, getting caught up in that Field of Love. So SCC does get some decent value out from that ultimate. And we don't see this quite as much anymore, but these hunters have been left alone. They're the most farmed on the map nowadays. A lot of the times in Season 7, you can see the mids being the one that get kind of out farm everyone else, but Bonjo and Ocean spend a good amount of time in mid this time, and that means that SCC and BIossum have been able to farm to their heart's content, and they're both looking better for it.
I mean, Jing as a pickup kind of dictates that you're going to be left alone in that lane. Aggro said it last game. She is one of the, if not the hardest god to gank and smite.
Yeah.
So you really don't want to allocate any resources over there because you know it's almost always going to be a sunk cost. If you kill her, that's great, but she also has that passive that lets her get back to lane quicker when she respawns, so it's not even that huge a deal if she does fall.
Exactly right. And BIossum and SCC have been the beneficiaries of that lack of pressure in the left lane so far. Both of them picking up the rage. You heard Aggro singing the praises of in that pre-game breakdown as well. And no surprise on Jing, this item probably could have been core on her even before it got the change. She just loves to build crit just that much. But I was a bit surprised to see Cupid go for it. The thing is that Rage is just so efficient to build nowadays that I think even if he just goes one-off crit with this Rage, it still makes a ton of sense for him to build.
Yeah, Rage is so potent, it's so cheap. 30% at base, it's so good, and it's only going to get better with more kills, and there will be more kills throughout the course of the game. We've seen it every week. I don't think we'll see a 75-kill game this match, but we might next.
I think you're right, though, to talk about Oceans' build. Look at this. No Gauntlet of Thieves. He goes right into the Sovereignty. And I think if you're not going to go with that Gauntlet of Thieves, this might be the right build as Yunglad gets caught out. That Fear No Evil has caused so many problems for Slaughter Squad so far this game. And now ohey is going to go right to the Gold Fury. They've earned it, so why not? Burning it quickly, and Slaughter Squad do not have an answer.
Oh,
and this game has started to quickly get out of control. That's a 6K gold lead. They could look for sBennyQ here, but as we said, he's so safe. Field of Love is dropped. I love that idea from him for the cripple field, and sBennyQ makes it out.
He might make it out with his life, but this tower could fall as we have the huge stack on that side of the map, but it looks like they're going to elect to back off there and go defend their middle tower.
And that's the right call. I think once that gank onto sBennyQ doesn't work, just kind of back off there. I almost called him Oceans because I've seen Oceans play a good amount of Cupid in his day. Very little Horus, if I'm being honest.
This is not what I expect to see him, truly.
Sheyka in some trouble, drops down. The Circle of Protection buys some time. Huge knock-up, though, from Haddix. Allows for the rest of the team to regroup. I'm a Monster finds nothing, planted more in the tower than anywhere else. But Ocean's stuck underneath the tower line, takes way too much aggro.
Nice jukes.
But no one can find the last shot on him. Finally, Oceans gets put to the dirt. Yunglad gets the second kill on the board for Slaughter Squad. The rest of the squad, though, probably needs to back up. They got some low HP bars, and ohey have shown that they are willing to keep diving.
It looks like ohey hasn't read the patch notes. No one elected to auto-attack the Odin cage there. Ocean's just walking into it the entire time. Took maybe 5 or 6 tower shots and falls for it.
Get my boy out of there,
Yeah,
man.
anyone just hit this cage, please.
A couple times, really, is all we would need. And I do think that's part of the learning curve against this new Odin, that once people get more into the habit of it, we'll probably see him come down a little bit in terms of effectiveness. Pyromancer secured by ohey with a great crush over the wall from Amuel. Slaughter Squad, though, still in this game, though, quickly out of control. A 6K deficit just got worse as Glaivus completes the killing spree, taking down Sheyka in mid. There could be more trouble over in right. BIossum uses the ultimate defensively, but comes back in, still looking for more. Does not seem to fear DanteLeFargo at all at this point, so not worried about this Athena forcing Yunglad to jump over the wall, but Oceans is still here. Does find the first shot, and Amuel right there to clean it up.
2 down here. I'd love to see them go for Fire Giant. They have a huge lead. They know Cupid's on the other side of the map. Fire Giant should be relatively uncontested, but instead we're going to meander around the middle lane and just let this game go a little bit longer, you know?
And sBennyQ did at least get the tier 1 tower over in the left, so that's nice to get something back. As you said, though, Haddix is content to just kind of sit over here and bully DanteLeFargo. I understand, but you're winning the matchup. You're supposed to. But, gotta come have that impact on some of these other parts. And he has. Obviously, he's having a bit of fun. Been a good game from Haddix here so far. I love this Mystical Mail, though. This item has gotten, it feels like it's just so core on these solo laners now. You can build it almost every game on them, especially someone like a Cullen where all he wants to do is stand near them anyway. It's perfect for him.
He's going to have essentially 2 Mystical Mails with his second ability, but that tick damage coming out is going to be so huge, especially in his transformed state. He's going to be able to pressure people out. It's that additional survivability as well. We're having Vent, Anger, Hovered. You see all that tick damage? Imagine if you had more of that. That's exactly what Mystical Mail is going to bring him. He's going to be able to sit very easily on top of the Isis as well. She doesn't have that much self-peel outside of the stun and the silence, but it's not enough to stop Cullen just barreling down the lane. And it looks like with Slaughter Squad's roster, Athena, Jing, they're going to be looking to spearhead. They don't really have any traditional backline peelers to keep their carries alive.
You know, it's crazy. We talked about the Slaughter Squad draft and how it really felt like a team comp draft, right? They really wanted to fight around the yunglad in this Odin cage and smother you with all these circle ultimates you can't get away from. But ohey has not given them that chance yet. This might be what they're finally looking for as ohey start up the Fire Giant, but I think it was more of a bait than anything. They forced Slaughter Squad into it. Fields of Love doesn't find much. Haddix knocks up 2, but there's the Fear No Evil wreaking havoc on the back line. But everyone's still relatively healthy from Slaughter Squad. They can definitely keep fighting into this one, but Haddix just gets to the back and keeps raining in the damage. Amuel takes care of Younglad first. Sheyka running for his life. So is DanteLeFargo, and BIossum won't let him escape. SCC falls as well. A 3-for-0 in favor of ohey.
Our boy Haddix found the 3-man ult in the normal stance, transformed and hit 4. That's huge team fight damage. His damage spiked up at least 4,000 in that fight. However, you identified it earlier. They're trying to play around the young lad on the Odin. However, they can't. He's 5 or 6 levels down now.
Yeah.
He's just been getting abused by Glaivus and the Hun bots, rotating into the jungle, finding the Fear No Evil, and not allowing him any time to really use his Raven Shout or anything like that to survive. Instead, he just falls instantly to the CC.
And you could kind of talk about this as a jungler yourself. He had a couple of early deaths. I'm thinking about the one that happened on Back Harpies where he got picked before he can get his jump off in time. When you take those early deaths as a jungler, it can be really hard to get back into the game.
My team called me the 3-minute surrender king. If I lose my second speed buff, if I lose my life at any point pre-5, I don't want to play the match anymore, because playing at a deficit at jungle not only drags yourself down, but the rest of your team, as they have a much more commanding presence in a jungler that's not even ahead in farm, but on par. It's so important to get your jungler XP in the early, and instead, 21 minutes in the game, we've got a 1-4 level 14 Odin. It's almost a non-factor at this point.
Legitimately, I mean, it's brutal for Younglad, who we know can play certainly better than what we've seen from here today. And we've already highlighted how important this match is for them, right? This is the decider match for who can move on to those group stages, who can have a shot at making it into the SCC. And Slaughter Squad, it could be starting to slip through their fingers now, down 11,000 gold, 21.5 minutes in. It's only going to get worse as ohey grab the Primal Fury as well. So now we move into the base seeds of the game, as I always like to say, simplifies the game down a bit, right? Now all you have to do is defend around these Phoenixes, and that should add some additional value for all these circle ultimates as well.
It should. It'll be easier for Younglad to be relevant in these fights. All he has to do is drop the cage, and he's done his job. He hasn't found a single really relevant cage yet this match. So if they move into his Phoenix, into his home turf, he should be able to drop 1 circle for the boys.
The only good cage I can remember is the one where he had Oceans underneath the tier 1 in mid, and that's only because they literally refused to break it. Almost as if they were trolling Oceans a bit, having some fun at his expense. I doubt it, but that's kind of the only good one that comes to my mind. It's certainly not the kind of Odin game that you would expect, right? This god is considered a top-tier pick right now, and they just have not gotten top-tier pick value out of it so far. Good news is, though, they still have some relevance to some other roles. Sheyka not that far behind. SCC, I think, has had a fairly decent game, though a quiet one. So they're going to need those guys to show up big, but Haddix goes right to the back line, not going to make life easy. Oceans can't
Phoenix
find the stun, but they're already melting left side Phoenix. The Odin cage comes out, but the DPS is stopped on the Phoenix for now. Instead, it's the retreat from ohey. They're going to fall back out of Phoenix range. BIossum has to use the airstrike defensively as well, and Slaughter Squad hold on to their base for now.
So Haddix and Glaivus blinked past the entirety of the team there to create space on the Phoenix. Instead, they pulled out all 5 ultimates from Slaughter Squad, 2 still available for the side of ohey, Amuel and Ocean's ultimates available. I don't imagine Ocean's ult comes into play, but Scylla ult, I'm a monster, that's going to be pretty huge going forward. They're healing up now. The next engagement's going to be very telling, as Slaughter Squad has almost nothing left in the tank to defend.
It's going to be tough for them. They also don't have a ton by way of relics, though, on the side of ohey. Beads, shell, beads, been used on 3 different targets. 2 blinks has been used as well. So their engage might be a bit weaker than it was initially on that first wave of initiation. So we'll see how it is they try and jump back into this next final left-hand side, trying to see if they can maybe bait Slaughter Squad out. And I think it might be working. DanteLeFargo getting a bit curious about what's happening at the end of the jungle, sticks his neck out and realizes, all right, I'll stay under my Phoenix, you win.
They can move in at any point. Now, that Phoenix is so low, if they just push them back slightly, Slaughter Squad that is, they can sink 3 autos maybe into the Phoenix. It should fall. Ocean's in the air now.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
To the skies to try and get right to the back line. They're going to go to the left. Fields of Love comes down to counter it. That meant no dashes in the backside of the initial aggression. The Odin cage back up, as is Circle of Protection, but no one can stay standing on Amuel, though. Finds the first shot onto Sheyka. Can't find the second, but DanteLeFargo falls anyway. Yunglad does clean up Oceans on this Horus, but perhaps the least valuable member is BIossum. Gets one more onto Yunglad. Left side, Phoenix. That's it for that one. And maybe ohey could just take the game here. It's only Bonjo and sBennyQ that are still standing for now. Not exactly the most potent of defenses, especially if they can get back there and remove this Cupid.
sBennyQ should be able to defend it easily, however, with these auto attacks, they don't have anyone to really engage onto him safely. Looks like they're going to elect to back up, get ready for that next Fire Giant spawning in about 40 seconds.
They're still hanging around, though. They're not entirely sure how they want to go about this. Maybe they want to keep the mini-wave pressure up, saying come in and grab this mid Phoenix as well. I like this idea. They should be able to threaten this relatively well, I think. It looks like they should be able to grab this one. As long as they don't give too much credit back over to Slaughter Squad, they do not. And they grab the mid Phoenix quite nicely.
Now that the side of the Slaughter Squadron is spawning, they could look
down,
for the
Bonjo.
chase out.
He's stepping in, looking like he wants a bit more, immediately gets knocked up and deleted. That was ill-advised, and that's the politest way I can think to put it. But I understand when you're this far behind, it really does feel like you gotta take big swings, right? I mean, because there's no more good fights. Aggro and I have this conversation all the time, so eventually you gotta take a bad one, and maybe that's what Bonjo thought, was that was the best one they'd have.
Bonjo's thought process was they're low health. They're going to back up and go get the Fire Giant. We're not taking the fight around Fire Giant. If I can just slow them down a little bit, my squad that just spawned will be able to get there. We might be able to get a pick and turn this game around a little bit. Instead, he forgot to check the gold lead and realized that maybe 4 autos is enough to shut him down.
And it turns out it absolutely was. The only person on the map less farmed than Yunglad might be Bonjo right now. So those two guys do not a frontline make, I'd argue. They're going to need a little bit more help. This next Fire Giant going to go down for ohey relatively easily. And with a 17,000 gold lead in their corner, it would require a series of tremendous mistakes for ohey to lose this game. But we've seen it happen before. This is not out of reach for Slaughter Squad if they can find their opportunities. DanteLeFargo losing the 1v1 to Glaivus does make it out of there with the Defender of Olympus, though, before Haddix can do enough damage to kill him.
That's actually a pretty good trade for them. Glaivus ultimate for Defender of Olympus. That's one huge team fight lost for the side of ohey, whereas Slaughter Squad has this irrelevant global ultimate that hasn't been used a single time this game, dropped for safety. I would say that's a really good trade, and they just bought themselves roughly 40 seconds so they don't have to worry about an engage.
But isn't that what it felt like the whole game? It felt like Slaughter Squad had this game plan drawn up, and they haven't even gotten to try to execute it even one time, right? You've got this Athena over in solo. She can use Defender of Olympus to give you sudden numbers advantages. That sounds good on paper. Never got to happen. Well, we've got our carries with these 2 big circle ultimates who just follow up Yunglad when he locks in someone valuable. That never got to happen either. Their composition never came to fruition.
It hasn't. Yunglad, level 18 now and close to full build. He might be able to survive just long enough to drop that Ring of Spears. It could be the first one of the game. We'll see if this real strategy can come to fruition here.
This will be their best opportunity. The Magi's cloak there for Oceans should make the engage that much stronger. Taunt does land onto a valuable target. That's BIossum they caught out, but they still weren't able to do much damage to him. Whirlwind of Rage and Steel does throw Oceans back in the tower line. Circle of Protection there too, but Haddix is the one that gets the first kill of this engagement. Sheyka has already been removed on the Isis. Yunglad has to jump away, but Haddix cannot be slowed down. They get one more kill. BIossum takes care of Bonjo as well. And Mifflin, this just might be it. There's only 2 members left. DanteLeFargo and sBennyQ. Titan already starting to crumble. BIossum ends it with the double kill. And ohey, we're moving on to the group stage.
It wouldn't be an SCC qualifier if we didn't go for that last kill in the heartbeat. You know, just find that last one before the Titan falls. They got it. They're looking good, too.
They certainly were looking good in that game. I'm not too surprised, though. ohey is a team stacked with talent. I would expect this team to look that good when we're seeing them. I'm a bit surprised that it wasn't slightly more competitive, but I do think that did still end up being a relatively good game. We know Slaughter Squad are capable of a little bit better, but we just didn't get to see that here.
it's unfortunate, really. These are two of the best teams this week that could play, and they found themselves against each other in the first round. That's unlucky, truly.
I would think so. It's not the best RNG for them. But talk to me a little bit more. I mean, I kind of broke down what I was hoping that Slaughter Squad's draft would do. I mean, did you like it on paper? Did you agree that that's at least what they were trying to do and they never got to execute it? Or what did you see as their big problem?
The only really cohesive thing they had going for them was the Odin Isis ult together. Cupid ult, yes, it's a circle, but that's not the kind of damage you're looking to drop inside of an Odin
delayed,
cage.
Right?
It's
yeah.
delayed damage, it's avoidable damage, and it's not huge. The CC that it brings is a mez. It's going to, you know, be ruined the second they take any damage outside of that. It's not enough. Xing, on the other hand, is a very aggressive pick. Aggro said it on the desk. It's so good and potent in the lane. However, with a Cupid, that's not enough kill potential, truly, to find the Jing way. So Xing was a little bit squandered. Slaughter Squad's draft makes sense on paper, but in practice is impractical.
It is impractical. It requires, I think, such a heavy level of coordination that it's hard to get. I mean, remember, these are not rosters that have been playing together for years in a lot of cases, right? These are rosters that are sometimes put together, you know, in the last couple of weeks or something like that. And this is a draft that I think that you really got to be ready to execute at a pretty near flawless level if you're going to make it work. And ohey never gave him the chance. Haddix ran it down all game. For me, I think he's the MVP on that Chulainn performance, right? He was an absolute monster this game.
Well, chat, look at me now. I'm going to give my MVP pick to Glaivus for single-handedly shutting down that Odin. That Odin didn't get to play because Glaivus was sitting in his jungle dropping Hunbat's ults. You know, it could be my jungle bias. I played jungle for a long time. But come on. Glaivus really removed Odin.
That's right. If you can take Odin out of the game, then that looks pretty good, huh? We're going to take a quick break, but before that starts, I want to remind y'all, we got the Lunar Leap Year coming up. There's a Leap Year sale that's going to be happening. Save on 29% off select God skins and the Hyperdrive chest.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah, that's pretty nice, right? Mifflin can take advantage of that one as well, and hopefully you'll enjoy this quick promo, too.
I jump around.